okay for everyone?
Yes.
Perfect. So this is Bristow Square, one of the main centres of the University of Edinburgh. And we come here to talk about J.K. Rowling, who of course wrote the Harry Potter books. So she wrote most of them here in Edinburgh, but she's not from here originally. So in 1982, she was rejected from Oxford University, who I bet regret that choice a bit now. And instead she went to the University of Exeter, down in the very south of England, to do a degree in French and classics. So this will be very important for the series, and Rowling's obsession with language shapes so much of the books. But we'll talk about that later on. After her degree, she moved to London to work for Amnesty International for a while, and she then moved to Manchester to live with her boyfriend at the time. It was on a delayed train between Manchester and London in the year 1990 that she had the very first idea for Harry Potter. So she was sat on this train for hours, bored out of her mind, and started thinking, what if a magical boy went to a magical school? So she had to rush home to her flat in London to remember as much as she could, to capture as much as she could. The Harry Potter series took her by surprise. It was never the plan, very much a happy accident really. But this was really a hard time in Rowling's personal life. In December of 1990, her mother passed away after 10 years of struggling with MS. So of course Rowling was grief-stricken, and this really impacted the Harry Potter series. For example, Harry himself is an orphan and often has to explore those feelings of grief and loss of his parents. And Rowling has said she herself explored her own feelings towards this grief through Harry's character. That was her way of understanding and coping with those feelings. So her life really impacted major elements of the Harry Potter series. So after this, she moved to Portugal to teach English as a second language for about 2 years' time. And while in Portugal, she met her first husband, George Orantes. They married in 1992. And the next year, her and George had their daughter Jessica together. But in the same year, her and George divorced, and she calls their marriage short and catastrophic. And so, in 1993, Rowling moved here to Edinburgh with her newborn baby. She moved here because her sister was already living in the city. She felt that she had a support system already here. And when she moved here, she had only written the first 3 chapters of the first Harry Potter book. The rest of them were written in Edinburgh, completed here, and very heavily inspired by it. So my first quiz question: can anyone tell me the name of the first Harry Potter book?
The Philosopher's Stone.
The Philosopher's Stone, well done. Gryffindor?
Gryffindor.
Fantastic. That is the Philosopher's Stone. I believe in American English it's the Sorcerer's Stone. So I'm not sure why they changed it, but the rumour is that they thought Americans were too silly to understand the word philosopher.
Thanks.
I can't confirm or
Thanks,
deny
Scholastic.
that, but it brings me great joy to think about, so I'm gonna keep telling you. Okay. Also,
We apologize.
Also, by the way, I understand that not everyone has read or seen the films in English originally. So if you can't answer my questions in English, but you can in another language, please do answer for me as well. So I only speak English, so you can say whatever you want to me and I can give you a point for it. But I do understand people have read this series in a whole bunch of different languages, and so many of the names are completely different. I understand.
Yeah. How many languages has it been published in? Do you know?
I think around 80, 90 languages,
Wow.
lots and lots. They even print it in Latin, ancient Greek, even dead languages, they print it in still. Yeah, it's amazing. So when Rowling moved here, unfortunately, she was still in a really hard time of her life. So at the time, she described herself as being as poor as it was possible to be without being homeless. And at the same time, she was diagnosed with depression. So she was really going through a hard time. And again, this influenced the series. For example, in the third book, The Prisoner of Azkaban, some dark, cold, cloaked creatures are introduced, and they symbolised Rowling's feelings of depression. So they literally suck out your soul, which is how she explained her own experiences of depression. Does anyone know what creatures I could be referring to? Yep. Dementors, well done. What house are you in?
Gryffindor.
Gryffindor, fantastic. So it is, of course, Professor Lupin that teaches Harry how to defeat the Dementors. Does anyone remember what delicious food Lupin gives to Harry to make him feel better? Chocolate! Amazing! What house? Ravenclaw. So in the magical world and the real world alike, chocolate solves everyone's problems. So while we're here, I also want to point out the shop behind us, the Potter shop. Can you all see that there? So if you came here looking for Harry Potter merchandise, you'd be very, very disappointed. There's nothing there for you. It's a university shop. And the area just behind us, that underpass we walked through, that is known as Potter Row Court. So I can see the bells going off, Potter, aha. Unfortunately, this has absolutely nothing to do with Harry Potter. So it's called Potter Row Court because of a historical connection. People lived there, often made pottery, so it's known as the Potter Row Court. And even though Rowling walked around here a lot at the time, it didn't inspire the name Harry Potter, I am sorry to tell you. But we do know where she got the name from. So Rowling had a childhood friend named Ian Potter, and as children they would often dress up and play games of witches and wizards together. They would have magical duels and stuff like that. So she really associated the name with magic and with family as well, and therefore chose it for her main character. The name Harry, we know she always loved. And originally, she planned to name her first child Harry, but she rather unexpectedly had a daughter in 1993, which threw her plans off a little bit. And so in the same year, she put the name Harry towards her fictional project, so it would still be important in her life. And that is how we have the name Harry Potter. Student Union, one of the oldest student unions in the country, and in my opinion the most beautiful as well. I always think the turrets look so Hogwartsy with the grey tile, absolutely. And this building behind us is called McEwen Hall. So this is where students graduate from the university after they receive their degree. Last year I had one history class in here. Best day of my life, it's gorgeous inside. We come here because J.K. Rowling herself attended this university and she graduated in this building as well. So when she came here in 1993, she did a postgraduate degree in teaching, and after that she went to teach in the local primary schools around Edinburgh, meaning some kids in the city grew up with Rowling as their teacher, which is kind of wild, and I bet no one believes them now. So I also really want to discuss her other degree. Do you remember I said she did French and classics?
Yeah.
So this is very important for the series. Rowling was obsessed with languages and with names and the history of languages. So she loved how the etymology of a word could tell you so much about it. And she really used her interest in this series. So many of the names in the Harry Potter series have secret meanings or translate personality or their description in general. So for example, we have Albus Dumbledore, the headmaster of Hogwarts. Albus is Latin for white. You can imagine his lovely long white beard and flowing hair. And Dumbledore is an old Anglo-Saxon word that means bumblebee.
Oh.
So Rowling imagined him to be humming along to himself, buzzing happily around Hogwarts like a bee. I think it's quite a cute name myself. It's quite sweet, isn't it? Dumbledore has 3 middle names, and they all mean cloud in one way or another. Again, fluffy beard, fluffy hair. Now this is a hard question, but can anyone tell me any of, or all 3 of Dumbledore's middle names? Yeah. You absolutely smashed
Percival,
that.
yeah. Percival was so fun.
What house are you in? Well done, Slytherin. In order too, amazing. So Albus, Percival, Wulfric, Brian, Dumbledore, absolutely. So Brian doesn't mean cloud. That was just thrown in for comedic effect, but the others certainly do. Another very interesting name is Severus Snape, our potions teacher.
Yes.
So Severus is Latin for severe, which we can see how that plays into his personality. And Snape is another Anglo-Saxon word, and it means muddy ground or some bogs. So this is a bit of a weird one, I will explain it to you. So Rowling designed the character of Snape to be very confusing for us. We are not supposed to think he's a good guy, but he's not totally evil either. We're supposed to be stuck in the mud as to how we should feel about him. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
But of course, everyone has their opinions. On my last tour, I had this lovely lady, and for 10 minutes, she could not stop talking about just how attractive she found Snape. Oh my God. I didn't know what to do, but it was interesting. So, out of curiosity, does anyone love Snape? Maybe not in the same way. Yes.
I think he's my favorite character.
He's a very interesting character.
He's very the way that you just don't know what to feel, and then when it unfolds, what his true character is. It's really
very different layers.
I love a complicated man. So.
Does anyone despise Snape? Yes. Okay. Yeah, they don't mix, do they? Yeah, I understand that. So most of us are supposed to be a bit unsure, but people definitely have their strong opinions either. My favourite name in the series is Remus Lupin.
Yes.
So first of all, can anyone tell me what creature Remus Lupin also was? Yeah. Wow, well done. What house are you in? Ravenclaw, fantastic. So he is a werewolf, and his name literally means werewolf. So Remus comes from Romulus and Remus, the founders of ancient Rome, and they were famously raised by wolves, and so they are symbolized by a wolf. And Lupin is also Latin lupine, which means wolf or wolf-like. So he is a wolf-like wolf, literally werewolf. That one was not very subtle at all. So of course he taught Harry how to defeat the Dementors. Does anyone remember what spell he uses to get rid of Dementors? Yeah. Expecto Patronum, fantastic. What house are you in? Yay, Hufflepuff!
Scottish ice cream champion. I don't know. It's cool.
Look at this little guy. Oh my goodness. Wow, it's beautiful.
Greyfriars Kirkyard, my favourite place to come when it is foggy in Edinburgh, and I'm sure you can see why that is. And we come here because J.K. Rowling took the most inspiration from Greyfriars Kirkyard out of anywhere else in this city for the series. So this sounds a bit weird because it's a graveyard, but it is a very interesting place. It is 800 years old, the oldest graveyard in the city, and one of the most haunted graveyards in the United Kingdom. So here, you'll hear some familiar spooky stories, and you'll see some very familiar names as well. First of all, can you look out at the scene for us and guess what scene this may have inspired in the Goblet of Fire books and films? So number 4. Yes, the battle scene, well done. That is Ravenclaw. Well done. So yes, this graveyard inspired the scene where Harry and Cedric are transported via portkey. Voldemort is resurrected. Cedric, my love, is killed. Harry and Voldemort have their first duel together. So can you see this from the graveyard? The weather today is aging with the vibe. It feels good. And someone pointed out to me, can you see this trophy above this little statue?
Yep, it looks like the Triwizard.
Like the Triwizard cut right before that takes me to the graveyard. So while I said nothing was filmed in Edinburgh, the film crew did come here to take pictures of the kirkyard so they could model the set around it. So while it wasn't in the films, it hugely inspired both books and films as well. So this is a very influential place for the series. I also want to show you the best story in Edinburgh. So the story of Greyfriars Bobby, you might already have heard of it. So can you see this ring of flowers just down here? There's a small statue of a dog just inside it. Can everyone see that okay?
Yes.
So this dog is Greyfriars Bobby. And the story goes that in the late 1800s, Bobby's owner passed away and was buried in the graveyard. And Bobby was heartbroken. And so he snuck in through the gates of the graveyard to rest on the grave of his owner every night for the next 14 years until Bobby himself passed away. A lovely story. And Edinburgh, then as now, fell in love with this story. So do you all remember the William Chambers statue from the very beginning of the tour where we met at the start? So William Chambers at the time was the Lord Provost of Edinburgh, which means he was the leader of the city at the time. And because Bobby was now legally a stray dog and would be put down, William Chambers adopted Bobby, fed him, kept him warm, and made sure he could keep going back here to say goodbye to his owner. At the time, dogs were not allowed to be buried here, but William Chambers said, Screw that. And Bobby is now buried just in front of the statue down here.
It's very fragile.
Now you may notice there are some sticks and twigs on Bobby's grave, and that is because people leave them for him to play with in the afterlife. Very sweet.
It's very fragile.
So if you see any nice sticks or twigs lying around, do pick one up. On the way out of the graveyard, we go back around there to take pictures, and you can leave him a stick if you'd like. You may earn a point for your generosity and kindness as well. So the reason I mention this story, I love it, but also Bobby really reminds me of one character in particular in the Harry Potter series. Anyone guess who I could be talking about?
Dobby? No.
What? Yes, well done. Is that fantastic? Yes. Yes, Dobby. Bobby,
Yeah,
Dobby.
Dobby,
Very
okay.
loyal and kind. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I wasn't off. Okay.
So we're going to go around the graveyard now, and we exit by the same way. So you can get pictures of Bobby later on. Don't worry about that. We'll go back to that spot later. Shout over this other guy, so can everyone hear me at this volume?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we're looking at this building here for our next stop. So this is the Black Mausoleum, the final resting place of Sir George McKenzie, who was a Lord Advocate in Edinburgh in the late 1600s. So a Lord Advocate was a very powerful, fancy lawyer in the city. And we can tell he was powerful just by looking at his grave. So it's massive. And only the wealthiest in Edinburgh got a headstone at all in Greyfriars Kirkyard. So there are in fact 800 headstones in here right now, but there are 100,000 bodies buried in Greyfriars Kirkyard that we know of at the minute. So not everyone got their own headstone. But George McKenzie here, he did not use his powers for good. He is most famous for opening up the Covenanters' prison in a field behind these tombs here in the early 1600s. So the Covenanters' prison is famous because some historians deem it an early form of concentration camp. So truly horrific things happened here, entirely due to George McKenzie. So of the 1,200 inmates who entered, 48 left alive, entirely due to the brutal torture and execution committed by George McKenzie. So now that group is left, we're going to jump onto the place I normally stand on. I don't want to interrupt them too much, but this is good. This is better, right? So, yes. So George McKenzie earned the nickname Bloody Mackenzie for his crimes, and his reputation for evil followed him into the afterlife. So when he was first buried here, it was believed that if you walked up here, knocked on his door 3 times, and said his name, Bloody Mackenzie, 3 times, you would awaken his ghost and incur his wrath, who'd come back to make you feel mysteriously sick, to bruise you, and specifically to strangle you.
Oh my.
So this was obviously 400 years ago, and the story has come in and out of the popular imagination during this time. But it came back with a vengeance in 1998, when we know Rowling was living and writing in the city. So in 1998, a man broke in here to look for shelter and would not have a great experience. For one thing, you can't quite tell from here, but this tomb has multiple stories to it. So it goes down several levels on a dark staircase. And the man, he fell down. And where there used to be a dirt-packed floor, because over time the grounds have shifted, he fell onto a massive pile of bones.
Ooh.
Not just that of bloody McKenzie, of hundreds of other people buried in Greyfriars Kirkyard. So that's not nice.
Ooh.
And when he woke up, he felt something was off. He felt sick in a way he never had before, deeper than he ever had before. He was covered in bruises, but had a really dark ring of bruises around his neck in particular, and could not explain how he got them. So naturally he panicked and ran from the grave. And this reinvigorated the tale of bloody McKenzie in Edinburgh. So much so that bloody McKenzie is now the #1 most frequently recorded poltergeist in the United Kingdom. So there are over 350 reports of people coming here and leaving feeling ill or something is wrong. But 170 of these reports specifically discuss feeling strangled, hands around one's neck, or finding bruises there the next day with no other way of explaining it.
What?
So this is a scary story. That's not why we tell you. It's just a fun bonus. We tell you this because bloody McKenzie inspired 2 Hogwarts ghosts. So have a quick think. Can anyone guess who this could be?
Headley.
Absolutely right, well done. What house are you in? Ravenclaw. The Bloody Baron is one of them. Bloody Mackenzie and Bloody Baron. Well done. Now the other ghost, as a hint, the naughtiest poltergeist in Hogwarts, who does not appear in the films. Peeves, well done. Slytherin, well done you. So the other is Peeves. So Peeves is never in the films, just the books. If you haven't heard of him, I understand. Just so I know, who has read the books? Even if it's a lot of people, okay. Usually I have maybe 2, this is nice. Anyone who doesn't know, Peeves is the most irritating poltergeist in Hogwarts. He plays cruel tricks on students, for example, turning invisible and dropping really heavy books on students' heads as they walk underneath him. Cruel jokes like this. And according to Rowling, Peeves is the most notorious ghost in the wizarding world, as bloody Mackenzie is in the United Kingdom. And watch it. Keep an eye out for that tiny little detail. I might do that tonight. Sounds like fun. That is all I have to say about bloody Mackenzie. But if anyone is feeling brave, you are more than welcome to come up here, knock on his door 3 times, and say his name 3 times. I've never done it. I'm never going to do it. But if anyone is feeling braver than me, they can feel free, and they may earn a point for their bravery. Or how many volunteers? If we're all cowards, that's so fine by me. Who could this grave have inspired in this series? Professor McGonagall, well done. Hufflepuff. How did you know? You're my favourite. So this is the name that inspired that of Minerva McGonagall. So her first name is Minerva, the Roman goddess of wisdom, which fits quite nicely with her personality. So she is obviously very smart, very talented, respected witch. William McGonagall is a bit of a different story. So he is most famous in Edinburgh for being the world's worst poet. People genuinely hated this guy. He was the biggest joke in this city. He'd recite his poems and people would throw rotten fruit at him. He was that bad.
What?
And his death is quite similar. You notice, it says that he's buried near this spot. So the gravediggers they buried him, and they went to go and get their nice headstone. And then they realised they had completely and utterly forgotten where they had put him. We still have no clue where he is. This plaque is from 1999. He died in 1902. It has taken almost 100 years for him to get his own plaque. Poor guy. Poor William. That's so sad. And so it obviously wasn't the personality of this guy that inspired our character, but Rowling has said she finds it really funny that she has this awful, embarrassing ancestor she never wants to talk about. It's quite fun. But we do know where she got the inspiration for the personality of Minerva McGonagall, and that is from Maggie Smith. So Maggie Smith played McGonagall in the Harry Potter series, if you remember. So one of her other roles was as Miss Jean Brodie in adaptation of the book The Crime of Miss Jean Brodie by Muriel Sparks. So all you have to know about this character is that she was very stern, very strict. Rowling loved this personality type, but even more she loved Maggie Smith's exact performance.
Yes.
And so she crafted an entire character around Maggie Smith, which is pretty cool at this point. And that meant that when it came to make the films, obviously Maggie Smith had to play McGonagall. So Rowling had several demands for the series, and if they were not met, she would not go ahead with it at all. She was very serious. She demanded 3 actors in particular. One was Maggie Smith as McGonagall, the others were Alan Rickman as Snape, and Robbie Coltrane as Hagrid. So yes, very good choices. They just made this series, didn't they?
They did. Yeah.
So she also really wanted another actor in a particular role, and that was Hugh Grant as Gilderoy Lockhart in The Chamber of Secrets.
Oh.
Wouldn't he have been?
He would have been amazing. Oh my god, yeah.
I'm so sad it didn't happen, but he was too busy at the time, so he was not included. And Rowling was okay with this loss. I wasn't.
He would have been incredible, yeah.
So her other big demands included that everyone in the films were from the UK, and everything be filmed in the UK as well. So she did have a reason for this. It was a big American studio coming to make the films, and she was nervous it would be too Americanized, too Hollywood. She really wanted to get that authentic sense of Britishness in the series, which I think was a success. Harry Potter is now one of Britain's defining qualities, I'll say. It's our big claim to fame, isn't it? So yeah, I think that worked pretty well. Of course, nothing was filmed in Edinburgh, but there are some gorgeous locations in Scotland that were used in the filming, many of which you can access from Edinburgh through bus tours that leave every day. So for example, in the Highlands, that is where Hogwarts is set in Wales. So many of the beautiful scenes you see around Hogwarts, they are filmed in the Scottish Highlands. For example, Glen Cove, this is where Hagrid's hut was filmed, and where the flying car goes over in the Chamber of Secrets. You can also go and see Loch Shiel, which is the Black Lake in the Goblet of Fire. And most famously, you can go and see the Glenfinnan Viaduct, that beautiful viaduct that the Hogwarts Express travels over famously, especially in the Chamber of Secrets. So in fact, you can board a steam train called the Jacobite that looks just like the Hogwarts Express, and you can travel on it over the viaduct like you were on your way to Hogwarts. I would love to one day, but it is a bit expensive, and I'm a student, so maybe not for a few years yet. But it is amazing. If you would like to, I advise you to book several months in advance, as it is a very popular thing to do. You can also get a regular ScotRail train over as well, and you can get off the train that costs about £10, and you can then wait to see the real train going over to take pictures. You can do that as well. So if you are in Edinburgh for a few days or a longer period of time, I do highly recommend spending one of those days exploring the Highlands. It's truly beautiful, and I can't talk about it enough. It's amazing. Okay, so we're going to head to our next stop now, the most famous grave in the graveyard, just down this way. It is starting to get a bit more cloudy in here, so if anyone wants to borrow my umbrella, please let me know. Absolutely no worries whatsoever.
I just came from the Highlands. I was
Oh, you
in,
did?
yeah. I was in Ivangard and Ivaness.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You see Loch Ness and everything.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah, gorgeous. How was the weather for you? Was it a bit...
It was like this.
Yeah.
We had a couple of spots of sun. So this is
Yeah.
actually...
The thing is last week it was no rain for 3 weeks and sun every day. So this is, it's not always like this, but you came at a bad time.
It's okay.
Does the train actually look like the Hogwarts Express also from the inside?
I think so, yeah. It's not as like cramped and small, but it's more like comfortable than. But yeah, it does. It's red on the outside, steam and everything. It feels a lot like. Actually, on the 1st of September at King's Cross Station in London, they had a big celebration at 11 a.m. when the Hogwarts Express would leave.
Yeah.
So they had a whole thing where everyone had up their wands and counted. The train was on its way to Hogsmeade. Proper celebration at King's Cross.
I actually stayed at King's Cross for my honeymoon because we wanted to stay at the station.
I always get home for King's Cross, so I always am there like every few months. Really cool.
We stayed at a hotel right at the train station, and then we kind of walked around and took pictures.
There's something different now.
Just make sure I'm not on an anthill. That's important.
So when looking here first, if you'd like a seat, there's a wall behind you. If you'd like.
Sirius Black.
But can everyone see what's written here?
Sirius Black.
It says Sirius Black Fate Stolen. So this is half true. The fact that used to be here did not say Sirius Black, but it did say Black. And it was absolutely stolen because of association with Harry Potter. So 3 maps have been stolen from Greyfriars Kirkyard for the same reason. The county one behind us here completely gutted from
Oh my goodness.
now these have been gone since I moved here almost 3 years ago. We are not even sure what that one used to say. The one that was stolen up here that we'll see on the back of it, that used to be I know. It is a horrific thing happening in Greyfriars Kirkyard. And even though none have been stolen recently, people are absolutely still trying. So one of my friends is also a paramedic. And a few months ago, she was called to this scene, but someone had really injured themselves trying to get them back. We were about to go and see off of the wall. Very sorry to tell you. Okay, so we are going to head to that most famous grave now. This is a good area to stick it. 1.41.
Oh wow. Very cool.
Everyone wants to phones out of this one. So can everyone see this one okay? This is Victoria Street, the original inspiration for Diagon Alley in this series. And for me, it does look so much like it. The way it twists and turns, the colourful shops, and the levels it has to it as well. And the shops on this street seem like they should belong on Diagon Alley. For example, there is John Kay's bookshop that sells magical books. There is a cheesemonger, a tailor, an old Irish pub, and most importantly, there is a fantastic Harry Potter shop up this street called Museum Context. We are going to go up and have a look. There is no time to go in on our tour today, but it is open all day till around 7 p.m, so you absolutely have time after the tour. And you can always ask me how to get back after the tour is finished, so you are not missing out today at all. I also want to point out that this is called Victoria Street, but every street sign says West Bow. You can see here and here as well. So this was called West Bow when it was originally built in the 1800s. And I guess they haven't changed the signs yet, I don't know. But when it was first built, there was a Wizard of West Bow living here. So he was an absolute nuisance. He associated himself with the devil, I guess, and he would try and curse the residents of Victoria Street, trying to turn them into barnyard animals. He wasn't a very good guy, but it proves that the magical history of Victoria Street goes back further than just Harry Potter. It's a very magical place. It is also very beautiful.